Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing? I'm excited. I'm excited to be back. This is the first live that I've done in a very long time. Over the summer, we took a break from our career conversations, but we are back today. And today I'm talking about um, the best time to make a career pivot in your career as a female professional. As I'm going through, if you have any questions specific to this, then type them in the chat and I can circle back to them. If this is the first time that you're catching one of my lives, my name is Janine Esperand and I am a career strategist and executive coach. And I specialize in helping women to pivot in their careers and move into roles that are more meaningful and that are more impactful and that pay them more. And the reason why I want to talk about this topic right now is because it's been coming up a lot in this season. We're going into we are in the September season where everyone's thinking about work and everyone's returning to work and thinking about their career goals for the year. And one of the things that often comes up for people is, should I be making a move now? And what kind of move do I want to make? Now, before you get to the point of really figuring out what the right move is for you, you really have to answer the question, is it the right time for me specifically to make a pivot? Because if you haven't decided it's the right time for you to make a pivot, then you're not necessarily going to put the time and effort in that is required to actually figure out the next move and then make the next move. So what I want to talk about today is the signs that it is time for you to make a pivot in your career. Before we get into that, I do want to just plug the upcoming masterclass that I'll be running on Monday. So I'm doing a masterclass called Make Your Next Career Move Your Best Move, which is really going to help you to identify the different steps that you need to go through to make sure that any move that you are making is the right move for you. So I'm going to be walking you through my 4-step framework for figuring out the best next move and then making it happen. So that's happening on Monday at 8 p.m. So if you haven't signed up for that masterclass already, then go ahead and do that. And if you see me looking from left to right, it's because I'm going live in 2 places, so over on LinkedIn and then also on Instagram. All right, so let's talk about how do you know that it's the right time to make a pivot? So often I hear people going back and forth around whether or not they should be making a move. It's like, is it the right time? Should I be making a move? I'm not sure. And the underlying fear that goes along with making a career move is people not wanting to make the wrong decision, not wanting to make the wrong decision. So because there is a fear around making the wrong decision, we end up with indecision, where people just stay where they are, even though they may well be feeling frustrated or deflated or disengaged in the role that they're in right now. Because they fear making the wrong decision, they sometimes stay where they are. So I want to talk about like 3 signs that it is time for you to move, right? If you're in a role and you have been in a role for a long time and you have been thinking about making a move for a long time, then these different reasons may well resonate with you. So the first one is stagnation. So if you have been in your role for a long time and you don't feel like you're progressing, if you feel like there is an element of stagnation for you, in that you've been doing the role for a while, you are making good impact, you are doing good work because you're getting positive feedback from your clients and from your colleagues. However, you don't feel as though you are growing, you don't feel like you're progressing. And not only do you not feel like you're progressing, you can't see the pathway to progression. You can't see how it is you're going to move forward. If you're ambitious and if you know that you want to achieve big things in your career, but you can't see a pathway in this current role, then that's a really good indicator that it's time for you to figure out where it is you'll move next. And any move that you make isn't necessarily a move out of your organization. It could be that you make a lateral move internally, or it could be that you position yourself for promotion. But if you're in a role and you can't see that there's any progression where you are right now, and you're bored and you're finding that you're not operating at full capacity, then maybe it's time for you to consider making a move. So often when I speak to clients that I work with, they will say that, yeah, I'm showing up and I'm doing work and I'm doing good work. Everyone loves what I'm doing, but I honestly feel as though I'm only working at 60 or 70% capacity. Like I could be doing so much more. I feel like I could be giving more, but there isn't room for me to do that. If that's the case, then you're wasting a lot of the skill set, a lot of the expertise that you can bring to the marketplace. You're wasting that in a role where you're only being utilized like part of the way, right? So stagnation is a big piece. Like, are you feeling stagnated in your career? If so, that's a great time to be considering some kind of pivot. And if you've been following me for any length of time, when I think about or when I talk about career change, I talk about my SPL framework, which is essentially when you're considering a move, there's different ways that you can move. You can make a shift, you can make a pivot, or you can make a leap. SPL, shift, pivot, or leap. And the shift is where you just make a slight tweak to what it is that you're doing and where it is that you're doing it. A pivot is where you're taking some of your existing skill set and maybe you're moving that into a new role or a new industry, or you're staying within the same industry that you're in, but you're trying something different. So there's some element of sameness, but there is some change. When you're shifting, you're basically doing the same thing, but like in a different environment. And then when you're making a leap, you're deciding, I don't want to do what I'm doing at all. And I'm going to go and I'm going to figure out how do I do that in a completely different place or space. So for you, if you're feeling stagnated, it's about considering what type of move makes the most sense for me to make now in this season. So that's number one, stagnation. The second one is burnout. If you're experiencing burnout, if you're feeling as though you're lacking the passion that you once had for the work that you're doing, this could be a good time for you to assess, is this what I still need to be doing? And there may be various reasons for you to be experiencing burnout. It may be that it's been full on and there's been a lot going on. It may be that you haven't been able to enforce your boundaries correctly in the role that you're in, but it is important to assess whether the environment that you've put yourself in has contributed massively to the burnout that you're experiencing. And if that is the case, you have the opportunity to change that environment. You have the opportunity to say, if this isn't working here, or how I'm currently operating, how do I shift that? How do I change that? How do I move? And so that's the second thing. Like, are you experiencing some form of burnout? Are you recognizing that where you once used to feel really passionate about the work that you're doing, you no longer do? Why is that? So wherever you are, if you're considering that where you're at, what's happening right now isn't working for you, like, this is the opportunity for you to really consider why is it not working. Emma says, I've just been made redundant. I'm considering using my skill sets from VA, but I'm really scared. Do I take the leap or just another employed role? Really great question, Emma. I'm going to circle back to that at the end because that's a really good question. Um, the third thing to be considering when it comes to, like, is now the right time for me to make a pivot, is your change in circumstances, change in personal circumstances in particular. When we are looking at our careers, it can be so easy to focus on just your career in isolation. Whereas my encouragement to you is to take a more holistic approach, because you're not just the work person and then the home person. Like, there's work life integration. Like, you're one person who's showing up in those different areas, and those different areas both influence each other. And so when you have stuff going on in your personal life, that can affect how you're feeling about the work that you do, and it may bring you to a point of reevaluation. And some of those key things, like if you're experiencing parenthood for the first time, or maybe you're expanding your family, if you're getting married, if you are getting divorced, if you have experienced grief or death, like in some way, shape, or form in the recent months or years, they can really influence how you're thinking about life and help you to put into perspective the role that you want your career to play. So for me, I know that when I was looking at when I was transitioning into motherhood, my expectation of what motherhood was going to look like and what it actually was in reality in relation to my role as a corporate lawyer was very, very different. I thought I was going to just have my baby, get a nanny, and then continue working towards the partnership track. And once I had him, I realized that I didn't want to do that, and I needed to shift the way that I was approaching work. And so that had an impact on the decisions that I made around how I navigated my legal career. So thinking about the lifestyle that you want to have and how the work that you do and the way that you're doing it integrates into your lifestyle is a really, really important thing to do that many of us overlook. And so if you've had a change in circumstances, or you have one on the horizon, that's a good time for you to assess, is the way that I'm working right now and the work that I'm doing right now aligned? Is it aligned with the lifestyle that I'm trying to lead and the home life that I'm trying to build? Okay. So those three areas, again, like stagnation, burnout, lifestyle change, or recent change in circumstances, are like three main indicators for you that considering some kind of career shift, pivot, or leap is something that should be high up on the agenda for you. um, when you're thinking about making moves, oftentimes we can go straight to the should, right? Like, what should I do? And you might be looking at looking for external input on that. Like, what should I do to friends and to family? But my encouragement is that this is a really personal thing. Like, your career and where you take it is a really personal thing. So many people can look from the outside and say, oh, you've got this brilliant job, or you've been working in that for so long, you should stick at it, you should keep going. But you're the person who has to show up on a day-to-day basis. You're the person who has to do this work. And so if it isn't working for you, or you feel as though there might be something else out there for you, like, you owe it to yourself to take the time to assess, like, what is it that isn't working, and then what do I want to do instead. And so I always say to my clients, we're taking an inside out approach to this. Like, what do we know about you right now in this season? And that might be different to who you were as a person when you first started out in your career, or even when you first started out in this role. So who are you? What do you know about yourself? What do you know about your strengths? What do you know about your values? What do you know about your interests? What do you know about what's important to you? And how do you take all those things and allow those to be your drivers for change? Allow those to be the things that determine where you go next. And when you start like that, when you really take the time to understand yourself and allow that to be the criteria for the type of move that you make, it makes it so much easier for you to feel sure and for you to feel confident in the move that you're making, because it isn't so much about what sounds good or what looks good on the outside. It's more about, I know that based on where I'm at in my career or my life right now, and based on what I know about myself, this type of opportunity is going to be the best fit. And making those types of data-driven decisions that are based on where you're at can reduce some of the overwhelm, can reduce some of the doubt, can reduce some of the fear that you're feeling around making the wrong decision. Because if you know yourself and you're able to assess, is this role going to be a right fit for you, then that means that it's going to be a right fit for you, right? Like, I understand why it's going to be a right fit. And so then it allows you to even show up differently in the conversations about opportunities, because you're making the decision from a different place. Then this sounds good, or maybe I should go for this. Okay. So that's really what I want you to be thinking about. How, like, the best time to make a pivot is the best time for you. The best time to make a pivot depends on what's going on in your experience in terms of your career and your work life, and what's going on in your home life in terms of your experience. And any type of career move, it's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity for you to shift. It's an opportunity for you to do something different. And nothing is set in stone, right? Like, so often my clients are like, I don't know, what if I make a wrong choice, or what if I take this role and I do this? It's like, nothing is permanent. And if you navigate your way through, and if you move your way through your professional career, not burning bridges but maintaining good relationships, like, you're always going to be able to circle back if you need to, but ultimately make decisions that are based on, like, your your understanding of what is important and what you need, versus, like, on a whim. And then you'll be able to stick to it, because I know you're ambitious, you're like a professional. You're not just going to make a decision like overnight, like, yeah, okay, I'm going to go and do this thing. If you're able to make a decision that is data driven, if you're able to make a decision that is based on, like, something concrete, you're much more likely to follow through, right? And that's why I say deciding whether or not you even need to make a change right now is the first step, before you start looking at what it is you need to do. Because if you jump into what it is you need to do, and you've identified something that you want to do, and it feels like it's very far away, or it feels like it's going to be very difficult to do, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. You're not going to commit to it. Why are you not going to commit to it? Because you haven't even decided. You haven't even made the decision that now is the time for you to move. If you haven't made a decision, that means you haven't made a commitment. And if you haven't made a commitment, there is not going to be any follow through. Okay? You haven't made a decision, that means you haven't made a commitment. You haven't made a commitment, there isn't going to be follow through. So before you get into anything, before you start exploring opportunities or trying to put yourself out there, take the time to really decide. Is this something that I think I need to do in this season of my career? Is this something that is required because I feel like I've stagnated, because I'm on the brink of burnout, or because there has been some change in circumstance? And if the answer to that is yes, then it's so much easier for you to start thinking about and doing the things that are required to position yourself. Right, I'm going to circle back to Emma's question, because I think this is a really good question. So, being made redundant is difficult. it's a challenging time, but it's also a time of opportunity. Like when you have been in a role and you've been working, and then the role comes to an end, not because you've necessarily like chosen it, or maybe you took voluntary redundancy, but it's come to an end, and then it gives you some time and some space. Like if you've been at the company for a while and you've had a little payout, like it might give you the opportunity to really think about what it is that you want to do. And whenever I've worked with clients who have been made redundant, they've said it's been almost like a gift, like because they've had the downtime to really think about what it is they want to do next. And so Emma's saying, now considering using the skill to become a VA, but really scared. Do I take the leap or just another employed role? What I would encourage you to do, Emma, and this is for anybody who's considering making a move that is very different from what they're doing before, I think it's very, very important to validate your ideas. Inside of my coaching program, we have a whole section of the program which is all about validating your ideas and testing and making sure that what you think is going to be a good fit for you is actually a good fit for you. So one of the ways that we validate is for you to go out and seek out people who are doing what it is that you want to do. So for you, Emma, you're looking at becoming a VA. So it would be speaking to other VAs, having conversations with them to understand what is actually required to set up a VA business. What would actually be required? What skill set is required to be a successful VA? And when you speak to people who are doing it and gain that level of understanding, then you're able to come away and say, if this is what they're saying is required, is this what I thought it was going to be? And does this sound attractive, and does this sound compelling to me? If the answer to that question is yes, then you have more data to go on in terms of why it is you're making the decision to go down that route as building a VA business. If the answer to that is no, I'm not sure, then maybe it's not something that you do straight away. If the answer is yes, but you feel like I need to build a skill set that I don't yet have in order for me to be successful in that, then you can say, oh, maybe I take a role that I call a bridge opportunity, a role that gives me the opportunity to develop some of the skills that I know that I'm going to need for that goal role that I have, right? And so understanding what you're getting into, like what you're really getting into, before you make decisions is going to help you to shape the steps that you take to get there. So, start with the end in mind. Where am I trying to get to? Make sure that the destination is actually where you want to get to, and then you can decide what the steps are and what the timelines are. Right. I hope that's helpful. Let me know if that answers your question. If it doesn't, I can clarify a little bit more. But essentially, what you want to be doing with any move that you're making is taking the time to validate it, taking the time to assess, is this the right fit for me? And yeah, as I say, we dive into that. This is the reason why we have a whole section about it inside of our program, because it's so, so important, but many people skip over it. They don't take the time to validate. And what that can lead to is either you don't take the step at all, or you rush into it and then you find yourself in a position which isn't actually a right fit and you thought it was going to be and it isn't. And then you're back to square one, where it's like, okay, now I've made this move, but this isn't it either. And so taking the time to really assess is the thing that's going to help. And so this is kind of the kind of thing we're going to be talking about and diving into on Monday's masterclass. So we're really going to be taking you through the 4-step process that I guide clients through, and the validation piece is one of those steps. So I'm going to be sharing like what the 4 steps are, what you need to be focused on at each step, like common mistakes that are made at each step, so that you can understand if you want to make the next move that you're about to move into the best move for you, then this is the process that you need to follow. So if that sounds interesting to you, then I'd love to have you join us. So come on Monday. If you go to, let me just put it in the chat. If you head over to career changemakers.com/masterclass, then you can sign up. It's going to be 8 p.m. British Standard Time, and there will be a recording as well. So if you can't make it, still sign up, and then you can catch the recording. And as part of the masterclass, I'll be doing live Q&A at the end as well. So if you have like specific questions similar to Emma's about your situation and you want me to dive in more and potentially give you a little bit of coaching around it, then come and join us live. This is a great opportunity to get that. We've had this masterclass before and people have found it really useful, but coming live is you get the opportunity to get some insight from me as a career strategist, as an executive coach, as a keynote speaker who is really focused on career development and supporting people with moving forward. I'd love to be able to support you. So come along to the masterclass. I'll be back again next week. So my goal is to come back with regular career conversations on Wednesdays. We took a break over the summer because it was summer holidays and the summer holiday juggle was crazy. And so now I'm really excited to be getting back in. So you'll be seeing my face pop up a lot more. If this is the first time that you're catching any lives from me, then make sure that you follow my page over on LinkedIn or on Instagram so that you can keep up to date with all of the updates that we do. But hope to see you in the masterclass. And with that, I will say bye and I'll see you very, very soon. Thank you for joining. Take care.